I didn't know what copywriting is. I hadn't learned copywriting. I didn't know anything about copywriting. Then I joined CMB, I think in March or April 2021. And then right after, in June 2021, I got like my first big client, let's say. At first, I was just like the copywriter. Then I was the email marketing manager. I had the list of like 1.8 million people I messaged every day. Then I became the lead copywriter. So I actually had 5 people under me. And now I think together I have worked with about 10 2 Club coaches, and I've helped make at least 5 2 Club coaches. So I'm just in the back end there.
Ladies and gents, without further ado, I have with me Kenneth Karl Parkja, the $40 million man, as we call him, because he has managed to generate over $40 million for one of his clients with 4 10-minute VSLs. Extremely impressive, not to mention millions and millions of dollars with other VSLs and emails and side projects and sales pages and other things that he's done. So you joined us, dude, in CMB a couple years ago, but our journey actually goes a little bit further back than that. I was aware of you, I'd heard of you, I was in similar circles to you. It feels like a really long time, maybe 5-7 years ago. I think you did like Forex trading and stuff. You seem to be pretty successful with that. And yeah, you've just been on this massive tear. Ever since I first heard about you, you just seem to be like non-stop winning at fucking everything you touch. You got like the Midas touch. Everything you touch just turns into millions of dollars. So it's really cool, dude, to have you on and to finally have a chat and see what your journey's been like before CMB, during CMB, what you're up to now. So welcome, man. It's really good to catch up and have a chat.
Thanks for the introduction, Sean. Yeah, our story actually goes pretty far back. And I would say you have the Midas touch as well. But yeah, in terms of copywriting or internet marketing, I guess I first got introduced to internet marketing back in 2016 because I just started reading Jason Capital's emails. I don't even know how I found this guy. And there was one WhatsApp group for Jason Capital, and I joined that, and I saw you in there. You were also already making moves. So I think that was the first time we kind of connected a little bit.
Yeah, that's right. Actually, that sounds about right. Yeah. I'm curious to hear how you first got into copywriting. Was it through Jason? Was it through other business opportunities and avenues and things that you were doing?
Yeah, so my journey wasn't like straight away like, hey, I want to be a copywriter now per se. I think when I first started reading, let's say, Jason's emails and stuff like that, I didn't know what copywriting is. I just read the emails for the value, and I guess subconsciously, of course, he was trying to sell something in every email, but basically I was just reading it for the value. And I first started my own e-commerce store as like my first business, let's say. And for this, I was also writing a few emails. I was doing social posts and stuff like that. But I was just trying to like create content and get people to engage. So again, I hadn't learned copywriting. I didn't know anything about copywriting. The e-commerce store wasn't really successful as I live in a small country in Europe called Estonia. Our shipping rates are extremely high, so my profit margins were quite shit, to be honest. So that's when I went on to other things. I have been doing Forex trading for a long time. It's one of my passions. But also through Jason Capital, I discovered Danlock and I started doing high ticket closing. And with high ticket closing, I was quite good at it. I worked for multiple coaches, stuff like that. And that's where I basically learned sales psychology. And after a while with closing as well, I was writing some outreach emails and stuff like that. And then somehow, I think in 2020, copywriting started to become like a little bit more, let's say, popular. Now it's like extremely popular. But back then, I was thinking like, hey, I'm doing all those one-on-one calls, the sales calls, high ticket calls, one-on-one, and it takes me a long time to like talk to one person and maybe convert the person. But if I could do it in writing, send an email out to, let's say, hundreds of thousands of people, then I could multiply my efforts and also my value. So that's when I started to transition into copywriting. And it was honestly quite smooth because one, I had been consuming emails and reading the sales pages, stuff like that all the time. And secondly, I had already learned the sales psychology from Danlock.
Yeah, so you already had pretty much all the raw ingredients that you needed to really crush it as a copywriter. And it was just putting all the pieces together and then it just clicked, obviously. Yeah. Given your depth of experience. Yeah, awesome, man. And then how long ago was that you made the transition from high ticket closing into copywriting?
I think it was at the start of 2021. And I think I actually joined CMB because I was following you like all those years since the WhatsApp group, like on Instagram and stuff like that. Then I joined CMB, I think in March or April 2021, something like that. And then right after, I think in June 2021, a few months after, I got like my first big client, let's say.
Yeah, I'm keen to talk about that for sure. I love what you said before about how back in the day when we were first getting into copywriting, it was like this underground kind of like nerdy thing 5-10 years ago. Today, it's pretty cool. It's talked about a lot. It's relatively well known in the make money online space, but yeah, back then, definitely not as many people were talking about it. It was like this weird underground nerdy world. So it's cool to see how it's evolved as well. But yeah, so you joined us basically 2 years ago, we'll call it, inside of CMB. What was that journey like for you? You already had some pretty solid copywriting chops. You mentioned you didn't really take any copywriting courses or anything, did you? You just were exposed to so many sales pages and you were working as a closer with top level coaches. And so you got to see behind the scenes, their marketing, their VSLs, their emails, and all the pre-framing before they got on the phone with you. And that obviously taught you a lot. And so just by being exposed to it over and over again, you were basically able to learn it for free, right?
Yeah, that's right. So most of it came from just being exposed to the sales psychology and also the text writing itself. I did buy a few books. As you can see, I have quite a big bookshelf behind me. So I did buy a few books.
Downsized my bookshelf, but yeah.
And then when I was already in it actively, I was writing copy. Then I also started to buy more courses on this. But yeah, like the first transition was smooth.
Yeah, cool. Perfect. Dude, I'm keen to jam on your first big client. So after you joined us inside of CMB, were you already working with any copywriting clients and your goal was to like get bigger clients, or had you not worked with any actual paying clients yet at that point?
I had worked with a few small clients. I started with local clients, but I pretty quickly started hunting like UK, Australia, and the US clients because they are more lucrative. And also, I think just writing text in English, it's a lot more varied than local here. And yeah, basically I wanted to join CMB because of course I saw your success stories. I think Ray was just hitting it off back then or something like that. So I saw Ray and I knew you were also acquainted with a lot of those high-level coaches and you are sharing some of the opportunities inside the group as well. So that was one of my motivations, and obviously to learn your skills, how to actually land those big whale clients, which I did pretty quickly.
Yes. Yeah, let's talk about that, man. Up to you if you want to mention names, not mention names, totally your call. But obviously you did work with at least one very notable big name. Were there other like whale clients that you landed, or was it just like you struck gold with one guy and you're like, I don't need anyone else?
No, it's always great to diversify, let's say. And right now, the first client I had, the first big client, it was a ClickFunnels 2 Comma Club ex-member, so a real big guy. And I think something that's really valuable maybe for the listeners who are watching this interview, actually how I landed this client. So basically, you teach a lot of different methods, and I took this, let's say, free gift kind of method. So what I did was I saw him making a Facebook post that he is looking for copywriters. And obviously like 100 people replied below it, I think in the ClickFunnels group or somewhere. And basically was just like, send me your expertise and stuff like that. So the outreach email that you actually send to the clients, this needs to be like copywriting as well. Don't just say like, hey, I am doing X, I did this, I did that. Put on your copywriting lenses and start writing like how you can add value to this person. So I listed my achievements, I told how I can add value to him, and then I attached one email. So basically I wrote a free email for him. I have been following him for a long time. I knew his tone, I know his products. So I just put this into one email. I added it as an attachment and said, hey man, here's a free email. If you like it, send it out to your list. This is just on me. And that's what really got me into the door with him.
Yeah, interesting. I totally agree with what you said just then. I'm actually shocked and kind of appalled at how many people, when there's opportunities posted in groups, comment below, I'm looking for a copywriter, and people literally just comment like me and like, that's it. And it's like, what are you doing to separate yourself from 100 people? Do you know what I mean? It's like, do you expect just by saying, I'm interested, that you're going to get chosen? You know what I mean? It's like, you have to go above and beyond in some way. Like at least DM the guy, email him, reach out, send your samples, portfolio, write some samples for him, like exactly what you did. And it's honestly so easy to get clients just by keeping an eye out in groups like this and just putting in this tiniest smidge of effort because no one else does it. You know what I mean? It's like such a basic concept to me, but so few people do it that you really do stand out.
Yeah.
When you go above and beyond like that.
A great tip as well. I didn't have really, let's say, a big portfolio back then. So that's why I actually wrote the sample email because that was the best thing I could send him.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, portfolio, honestly, it's like whatever. A sample is going to be better anyway. So you may as well just write something that's personal to them.
Yeah.
And then that is what builds your portfolio because you can just throw it in there. So What did it kind of look like after that? So you emailed him, obviously he gave you like an email address to email him at, and then you sent some samples. And from there, I like your writing. I think you have potential. Let's get on a phone, interview you. And I'm guessing you were like one of the top few candidates or something.
Exactly. So messaged me back, hey, I really like this. Let's jump on a call. Then we had a call like a few days or a week later, literally just a phone call, not like a Zoom or anything. And basically he told me like, what's the compensation and when do you want to start?
Oh, so he asked you what your rate is. He didn't be like, this is the rate.
He asked what I would like. Then I told like, hey, I haven't worked on this level or something like that. Give me some kind of range. And then he told me the range and I was fine with it. And of course, he told me that there's room for expansion and growth.
Yeah, obviously in CMB, we teach the prescription call script, closing script, and it's all well and good. You're like, got my closing script, my objection handling script, I'm ready to go. And, a lot of the time it's like when you're maybe on the phone with 6 or 7-figure business owners, even it's like pretty smooth. I see these guys, they jump on calls with like 8-figure business owners and they just get steamrolled from the get-go. You know what I mean? It's like script just goes out the window and it's like they're just on the back foot from the very beginning. So a lot of the time with the bigger guys, it really is like you got to stand your ground a little bit more and really establish yourself as that expert. Otherwise, you'll just get flattened. You know what I mean? You walk out of the call like with way less of a rate than you're expecting. And you're like, what the hell just happened? Or you don't close them or whatever.
That's true.
So yeah, how's kind of like your experience on the call with that?
This was my first bigger client, so I was really okay with like anything he offers me because I could just start leveraging his name and get into these circles. So that was my mindset back then. That's why I didn't really want to negotiate that much with him. Also, being in high ticket sales, yes, the script is super important. Yes, you should know all the tactics, but it's also important to be like sincere and actually build a connection, not just read sentences off your screen like for the scripting. But in terms of other big clients, definitely, I think a lot of businessmen actually, even the bigger coaches and maybe startup owners, they want to test you. So they will actually hit you with a counter offer, or they will hit you with maybe 1 or 2 hard questions. But if you stand through it, then they're like, okay, yeah, your rate is fine. Basically, I think they will do it just because they can. So definitely you have to know your worth. But also think about if it's a big name client, how you can leverage him like a testimonial, something like that. So you might not get 100% of your rate, but it will lead you to other opportunities. It will open the doors, basically.
Yeah, 100%. It's always a tough balance when I suppose it's a bigger name because it is an opportunity to get quite a high paying client. But then at the same time, it's like, I don't want to go too high and then I lose him. And then now I can't leverage the name and get more clients from it. And also just working with them, even if you did work for them for, let's say, free, it would still be a great learning opportunity. So there's kind of like that, whatever you call it, seesaw or whatever. So my approach with that kind of situation has always been ask for what you want upfront, a higher number generally, because some people just say yes off the bat. Like some people just don't really negotiate much and they just take it at face value and they go, okay. Me, for example, like I'm not really a big negotiator. Like if someone tells me their rate, I'm like, cool. I don't really try and barter with them. It's just not how I am. Now that everyone knows that, they're just going to try and fucking slam you with high prices when they get on the phone with me. But oftentimes you'll honestly be surprised what you can get away with just by asking for a higher number. Like some people just say yes. But then knowing your reserve price in your back pocket. So like if they say no to that, what can I downsell them with? Maybe you can lower your rate. You want to be careful about how you do it. Like you don't just want to drop it like, oh, well, you can't do 4,000 a month. What about 3,000? Yeah. What about 2,000? And then you just look desperate. You know what I mean? You're cheapening your brand and your service. So the way I always like to approach that situation, if, just too expensive or whatever, as a sort of last resort, you can always say, I'll tell you what, why don't we do a 3-month test trial at a reduced rate of 3,000 instead of the normal 4,000 a month, on the condition that if you love the results and the service, all I ask for is you just give me a testimonial and a referral. So you basically, like, you drop your rate a little bit, but you're asking for something in exchange. So it seems like a more honest and fair exchange. And then you can say after 3 months, if you're happy with it, then we can step it up to the normal rate.
That's a great tip.
That's kind of like the approach that I like to take. You have that, like the lowest price you're willing to go in your back pocket, but most people just retreat to it too soon. And you got to really try and like only use that as a last resort. Because as you said, it can be a great experience working with them from a learning perspective and from a perspective of leveraging them to get bigger names.
Exactly. Yeah. I have been doing the same thing you just talked about, like the reserve kind of price. All my last projects, I have been quoting a little bit higher, and most of the guys say yes, and some of the guys like say, hey, maybe you want to do X amount a little bit down. Then I'm like, sure, that's what I would normally do. Once you get better and you're confident in your abilities, then you can always try and raise it, because some people, if they pay you more, they also think they are getting more value, and maybe they even invest more money into you, they invest more time into you, maybe it will become a close partnership, etc.
Yeah, I literally just dropped 2 YouTube videos last week about the psychology of higher pricing. And it's honestly so funny. It's like oftentimes the difference between a copywriter who earns $2,000 a month from a client and $3,000 a month from a client is because they asked for $3,000. That's the only difference half the time. They might not even be as good of a copywriter as you. And so many people are just, I think, scared to ask for higher prices because they don't have 5 or 10 years of experience and 9-figure clients under their belt. But at the end of the day, if you can provide them results, and if they're going to make way more than what they're paying you, it doesn't matter about your experience, your portfolio, like all this other stuff that people get hung up on. Just go for it. That's what I say.
Exactly. Always think about like how much money you're making them, and it will make sense.
Yeah, that's the only thing I based it on. Cool. Did you manage to land any other big name clients in that time, or what did the rest of your kind of like CMB journey look like?
Yeah, so I was working with this guy for a year, I think exactly a year. At first, I was just like the copywriter, then I was the email marketing manager. I had the list of like 1.8 million people I messaged every day. Then I became the lead copywriter, so I actually had 5 people under me. So that was my journey there. And on the side, I actually landed other big coaches. And now I think together I have worked with about 10 2 Club coaches, and I've helped make at least 5 2 Club coaches. So I'm just in the back end there.
That's gangster. You should have your own wall of 2 Club awards of like all the clients and coaches that you've helped get their award.
Yeah, I had thought about flying to Miami to film their award and say like testimonial videos in person.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. What would your advice be to, let's say, a newer copywriter who's trying to land a high-paying client? Maybe not necessarily like a 8-9 figure whale, but their first kind of like big, higher-paying client. You know, they're sick of charging per email or per fucking word or per hour or whatever the hell these guys are charging, and they want to land some actual proper retainers or at least higher price VSLs and sales letters and bigger one-off gigs. What would your advice be to land some of those clients based on your experience and what you've done?
Yeah, I would come back to what we talked about earlier in the call. The email or whatever you are sending, you're basically selling yourself. So this needs to be copywriting as well. List your achievements and go the extra mile. Make a free sample email. Say, what else do you bring to the table? Like, let's say you are doing some hiking as a hobby, and then you write to hiking companies. You can say that you have first-hand experience. You know how people feel when they are hiking, whatever. Just try to bring in that extra value. That's how you will stand out. Of course, it doesn't work 100%, but it's not that hard really to go that little extra step, and that one little extra step, it's actually a big way in their terms.
Yeah, well, if no one else is doing it, right? What's that saying? Like the extra mile is like empty or whatever because no one's on it. Go the extra mile because it's empty, right? Because no one else is doing it. So if, let's say, maybe these clients weren't posting in groups actively saying they're looking for copywriters, would that still be your approach? Would you just be cold emailing and DMing them, trying to get on their radar, commenting on their social media posts and stuff like that, and then just giving samples and value where you can?
Yeah, if you have a brand or a coach that you really like and you're following them anyways, then you might as well engage with their content. Reply to their stories on Instagram, write to them on Instagram, find their email, send some of your samples, and think basically how you could improve their funnel or their brand, or maybe you have some ideas for their website if they are a SaaS business, whatever. And then you can just write an email to them, include some of these suggestions, and you will stand out again. So you talk in CMB about this hunting versus farming. I think hunting is really important, but if you truly have someone you really want to work with, then farming seriously works as well.
Yeah, when you combine the two of them, I think it works even better, because if you're active on socials, Facebook, Instagram, they've seen you around a little bit, maybe in some Facebook groups, maybe on their Instagram profile, and then you send them a cold email or DM or whatever. It's no longer cold anymore. It's like warm. There's that familiarity there. Like, oh, I've heard of this guy before. I've seen him around. He seems to know his stuff. He seems to be posting valuable like knowledge and information. Like he knows his stuff. I can see he's pretty well put together. Like his profile looks really solid, and they're much more likely to respond to you.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Last question, man, before we jump into the actual main VSL training, so we've been going for a little minute here. Bit of a selfish question probably, but if you can remember back to your CMB journey, what would you say were like the top 3 most valuable things that you got from that program in terms of the strategies you learned and applied, the community, like any single aspect of the program that was most helpful for you? I'm just curious to hear.
I think one was like all the great strategies in one place, because you can write into Google like how to get clients, but it's so scattered and it's so superficial. You really dive deep with the examples and how to actually do it. So this was one. The second one was other members' success stories. Like I have watched a ton of interviews you are doing with the members just like myself.
Oh, you're one of them.
Because when you see that the others are doing it, it's much easier for you to push forward and get to that level as well. And the third is like actually interacting with the community, because one, yes, you may get some client recommendations. Every once in a while, someone writes like, hey, I have a client for X. But also you can ask any of your questions. You can ask about copy, you can ask about what to send to a client, how to get the client. And this will basically just fast track your journey, I would say.
Yeah, 100%. If there was a newer copywriter out there who maybe, let's say, wanted some help landing some high paying clients, would you hypothetically recommend CMB to them?
Sure, because just the client opportunities and just asking for help. I think yesterday somebody said, hey, I sent an email to this coach. Here's how he replied. So what should I say? So just getting this information from the people who have done it already, this will just, as I said, fast track your own journey.
Yeah, I totally agree, dude. Our community is honestly the most helpful and supportive community I've ever seen in any program. It just happens to be my program. And the amount of times I go into the Facebook group to like answer someone's question, and there's already like 6 people who have jumped in and given them long, detailed answers. And these people aren't just like fucking amateurs either. These are dudes who are making 5, 10, 15, 20K a month, 50K, 100K a month. And they're taking time out of their day to actually respond and help the newer guys, which I think is really cool. Man, what's next? You've worked with this 8-figure whale, made them $40 million. We're going to talk about how you did that in just a second. But just to wrap this up, what is on the radar? What's coming up? What is next for Kenneth? What are you working on?
Well, I'm thinking maybe if I have helped so many other guys get to these levels, maybe it's time to launch my own product soon. So I'm slowly thinking about that.
Yeah, dude, no doubt. You got literally every skill in your tool belt that you need to make it happen, right? You got the copywriting, the closing, social media knowledge. It's like you have all the pieces once again, and it's all you need to do. No doubt, if you put your own offer together, it would absolutely crush with the skills that you have. So I'm looking forward to seeing you earn one of your own on the wall. I'm sure it'll happen very soon.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on here. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for taking the time, dude. Really appreciate it. With that out of the way, let's jump into the actual training and the reason we're here. I don't know exactly what you've got prepared, but Ken is going to be sharing with us how he made his client $40 million with 4 VSLs.
I have a little PowerPoint prepared.
Oof, beautiful.
Okay, perfect. Welcome everybody. Today I'm going to teach you my formula, how to write $1 million video sales letters.